I'm from an Asian country, and this happened when I was around 13 or 14 years old. At the time, I had been very sick and bedridden for 3 days, following my doctor's advice. The strange incident happened on the third night, around 2 a.m. I was sleeping next to my mom, and my bed was positioned right next to the window. Suddenly, I woke up to a strange noise. It sounded like someone was talking right outside the window, but through their nose. The voice was muffled, almost like a language, but completely unintelligible. I couldn't understand a single word, and it gave me chills. As I became more aware, I noticed something unusual. The tiny hairs on my hands were shaking on their own. It wasn't normal trembling. It felt like a strange force was causing it. I remember thinking at the time how weird that was. My mom, who has long braided hair, was still asleep. That's when I saw something forming at the end of her braid, a small shadow-like particle. It started to grow slowly, taking the shape of a human figure, though it remained completely dark like a silhouette. The shadowy figure began crawling up the wall next to us, getting larger as it moved. It resembled a shadow version of Spider-Man, clinging to the wall in a crouched position. Eventually, it reached the top of the wall directly above us, crouched in the classic Spider-Man pose, staring right at me. I was paralyzed with fear. I tried to scream but couldn't. Finally, I managed to shout and told my mom, "Look, there's someone on the wall looking at me." She looked, but said she didn't see anything. I cried and kept pointing, terrified, but she insisted there was nothing there and assumed I was just scared. She turned on the light, and instantly the figure vanished. Later, I shared this experience with my relatives. Most of them said it must have been a hallucination due to my illness, but deep down, I know what I saw. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't confused. I still don't know what that thing was, and to this day, I haven't forgotten it. I'm a Christian, and I've always believed in the spiritual realm, but what happened to me Saturday night still shook me to my core. In the middle of the night, I was suddenly jolted awake by the feeling that someone had rushed into the room and sat down on the edge of my bed, right next to me. I was facing the wall, so I couldn't see anything, but what I felt was undeniable. Then I felt it. Something started caressing my hair. Not once, but 4 to 5 times, slow, deliberate strokes. I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't turn, couldn't speak, couldn't even blink. It felt like I was being pressed into the bed, held down by some invisible force. I tried to call out to Jesus, something I instinctively do in moments of fear, but I physically couldn't open my mouth. It was like my body wasn't mine anymore. I was trapped, aware, but helpless. After struggling internally, I finally managed to force the word Jesus out of my mouth. It came out painfully slow, like moving through molasses. Then I said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." As soon as I got the words out, I felt the pressure lift immediately. I shot up in bed, wide awake, and the presence was gone. I can't prove what it was, but I know it wasn't a dream. I've never experienced anything like that before. The sensation, the timing, the inability to speak or move, it all felt way too real. I believe it was a spiritual or demonic attack. Has anyone else experienced something like this, where you're completely vulnerable, unable to move, and something intelligent seems to interact with you while you sleep? I know it might sound wild, but I'd really like to hear from others who've had similar encounters. Whether you're spiritual, skeptical, or somewhere in between, I'm open to insights. One night I stayed up late just playing on my Xbox and eventually got bored, so I just started watching YouTube trying to go to sleep, when suddenly I heard a tap on my window. At first I thought nothing of because I have pretty tall bushes in front of my windows, so I just thought the wind was blowing the bushes and it hit my window. So a few minutes later I hear a noise coming from my living room. It was the front door. I started shaking trying to turn the volume down on my phone, but it wouldn't go all the way down. It had that, I guess, glitch, where it will stay at 1 bar. So I turned my phone off, but it was already too late. The front door had been opened. I was too afraid to go into my parents' room, since it was by the front door, so I just pretended to be asleep. When the door to my room opened, then I suddenly felt heavy. Breathing on the back of my neck, I was scared, and I knew I couldn't make any movement. I was lying there on my bed, unable to do anything. Minutes later, which felt like an eternity, the breathing stopped. I heard my door close, and then the front door. They left. Once the front door closed, I heard a very loud scream from whoever broke into my house, and then it was all over. I will never forget that night, the worst dream of my life.